Yes. Welcome out once again to Black Power Media. This is no other than the Remix Morning Show. Joe. Now, I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and let me introduce you to your host. We got no other than Dr. Jared Ball. Kalanji Jama Changa. And burn it down, Kim Brown.
Ease up, easy.
What's up, good people?
Yes.
We are back.
Good morning. Good morning.
I realized we got up to 423 live yesterday.
Yep, because people messy. Everybody messy. Y'all messy.
Everybody's
y'all messy. Yeah, y'all tuned in for mess. That's cool. We can keep it a buck. We all grown around here.
7 hosts, 423.
And tuning in for the mess. Y'all came for the mess. Don't lie.
Yes.
And how many likes
So
we
it's
get?
cool.
How many likes we get compared to that 420 something?
We did all right on the
that.
likes department.
Right,
the likes did okay. The likes did okay. You know what I'm saying? So at least the people left
Everybody
us something
wants
when
mess.
they came and got something. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
So thank
Welcome
you
back.
all for the 2,800 views on yesterday's video. Is that a record for the remix to you guys? I mean, obviously not a record for the channel, but I'm talking about specifically for the show.
For the remix,
Yeah?
definitely.
Yeah,
so.
look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate
Look at that.
y'all. Keep coming back. We got more for you. How about that?
All y'all principled mess lovers. all y'all principled mess lovers out there.
So today we back to stories, news, histories, and artists.
Although you never know. You never know.
You never know.
know.
So
You
stay
never
tuned.
know.
Stay
Stick
tuned.
around.
Stay
Mike
tuned.
Rumble, just
Never.
you gonna stick around, we'll give y'all something. You know what I'm saying?
Because if you left 10 minutes early yesterday,
Oh,
so
you missed a lot.
So,
you missed a
you
lot.
you missed a lot.
But
So
we're gonna have love and bliss today. See if y'all want some
Oh,
love
no
and
question.
bliss.
No, we'll try. There are no guarantees.
But at the same time, Kalanji, don't mess up the promo.
I know. Violent.
At the same time, you never know.
That's right. Yeah, because I mean, everybody speak for themselves. I personally can make no promises about love and bliss, but go on.
That's like them basketball games when they leave out early thinking the team won, and then they come back. Like,
Right, everybody on the way home, and all of a sudden, or like that colossal bet I'll never forget losing. I got out the car. I'm up 2-3, looking good, ready to collect my money. Walk in the apartment.
Yeah.
And Cordell Stewart done thrown a 50-yard bomb to Michael Westbrook in the end zone. I will never forget that. On the last, I was like, "You mother!"
That big head dude
took all my money,
off
all
you.
my pizza delivery money.
That's probably when I ate. Thanks, Jared.
Yeah, you're welcome. I helped out a lot of people that year.
Here, doctor, why didn't you tell the man them that his mic went on, man?
Oh,
what was y'all doing during the pre-production?
Oh, you talking about Jared Ball's mic ain't on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
What's wrong with my mic?
Your mic sounds a little like you talking into the computer. You know who be talking in the computer sometime? No other than Kamal.
I really don't know why. It's all set
sometime.
Always on time. Can y'all hear me well? Right. Everything's working? Everything's working?
Yeah, your mic you never turned down.
CP time.
I thought I turned it down, son.
A little bit. Just a little bit more.
Damn. Jared joint is off. Kamal coming in hot.
Is that better? Is that better?
Yeah. Let's hear Jared now. Jared, you good?
I don't know what the issue is. I can never tell what the issue is because over here it's into the mic. It's reading into the mic.
Yeah, you workable.
And
are your audio settings selected to the microphone or is it to
everything? I'm looking at it again. I'm checking everywhere.
Do you need some help from by me? You want me to help you out? Like you got to plug it in.
No idea. I'm literally looking at. I can even share my screen and show.
No.
The mic is plugged in. It's reading the mic.
It's obvious that you're new with this podcasting thing.
All I'm gonna do is try to restart the browser and come back.
He's a newbie.
Yeah.
There was an update. There was a new iOS update, so some of your stuff might be acting a little higgy. Unless the update was able to go through. I mean, that happens sometimes. So
what's an iOS update?
For your Apple products. Apple operating system, whatever the fuck it is.
Oh,
Yeah, but it's a secure. Allegedly, it's a security upgrade, but it's probably putting surveillance shit on your phone. So I don't know, whatever. But yeah,
this should always be happening. So we got some stories today.
Maybe.
Nah. Oh, that's right. Your girl didn't put stories in.
Oh my
God. Erica's going on vacation.
Yeah, that's why.
Why does she have vacation?
Erica said she's not the story maker no more.
Because she allowed.
She gonna break. She got school to do. She's starting school, so she got to get her stuff together. Big up to Erica. Big up to all the students she got. You know what I mean? And big up to all what you've been contributing for
That's right.
Remix Morning Show. So with that said, we got to make sure we bring a story or two. Everybody that comes. I came with Bidenomics for the day. So
you say Biden? Biden economics?
Bidenomics. Ain't that?
Oh,
where you get the story from?
Huh? Listen. I'm gonna let Jared break that down. I'm not into that.
But you're gonna present the story. You got a story to present.
No, I just brought one just in case y'all don't have any. You know, I always say prepared.
So you're gonna instruct us about Bidenomics? Is that?
No, I'm just gonna have a story on deck in case y'all don't have any. Like y'all.
So where did Biden economics come from, man?
I think that's the story. That's what the story is. That's the
Bidenomics.
It's not like he's read it. He hasn't read it. He hasn't formed an analysis on it. Yeah, he just has it ready for somebody to bring that in and talk about. Isn't like it when we just like get deep dive into some topic or whatever. So
Zinzi, thank you for holding it down. I think everyone was the GIU family. We all on the road, so holding it down. I did hop in the chat on that day, but you might have missed me. But thank you for coming through. The chat was live for about an hour and a half or so without a show. You know what I'm saying?
For an hour and a half.
I mean, I guess they was loving it, man.
They kept themselves entertained.
Hey, listen, the chat room was going off, yo. It was a whole show.
Yeah,
it always is. It always is.
Yeah.
Speaking of money, he's talking about Cash App robbed people yesterday. So send me my money through Zelle.
But I just transferred. Cool.
Now that's a story. What happened with Cash App?
Yeah.
Hey. I mean,
nobody knows. Nobody's heard of it.
How about that? Come on, man.
I mean, they Cash App just like a whole nother bank, pretty much.
Is that a bank? I mean, do you hold money in Cash App and get?
Yeah, you're right. Let me hold money. Jerry get back in here. These guys, no money.
Anyway,
I don't know nothing about personal money. His wife takes care of all that. Me neither.
Double
charged Cash App users will get it. No, it's the opposite in my house.
Yeah, right? Yeah, please. You come home and give
I do the money. I do the money. I pay the bills. I'm not saying I do it with all my money. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. But
I know.
Yeah. You don't bring that check home and just hand it over.
Of course.
No.
Oh, that's Jared. My bad.
Exactly. She said, I saw. Y'all heard that. Yes.
She said, what against you spend?
She said, I spend my wife's money, which is true. Yes. It's a perfect balance. Tell
the truth. Shame the devil. Tell the truth.
The Bronx keeps on making it, and Brooklyn keeps on taking it.
Kamau gonna write memoirs, Life with a Sugar Mama.
Oh man. I'm telling you, listen, hey, Kamal's wife and Jared's wife can write the manual. I'm not interested in the husband. I'm not interested in the husband. But I would read the book though. I would read the book because I like to know how it's done, how to train yo in however many years it took to get Kamal trained.
So you would never get married?
No, to a man, absolutely not.
To a woman? To a woman?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to having a wife. I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I see
advantages to having dudes. I know people don't like to talk about it like in a sexist way anymore, but there's male. It's advantages to having dudes in the house.
So what do you do
in the house? I spend other than spending my wife's money.
Yes. Okay.
I shuffle the kids around. Not exclusively,
chauffeur, yeah.
but I think that falls heavily on me at times. I'm the timekeeper because if I don't keep time, we'll be late to everything.
Okay,
she can't deny that. She cannot deny that. I'm the lifter of things. So when something needs to be moved from A to B to C to D, that's my role. That's my role. At times, I'm a little bit of a disciplinarian. At times, when you gotta do that voice.
You are no disciplinarian, bro. You are no. Them kids run wild, yo. I'll be like, even when we was down there with Jared when we walked in for your birthday, it was just like, God, these kids don't even say hey to nobody else. Hi, how you doing?
They came to me. Yeah, they come to me.
Yeah, but when you see elders and adults, you teach
you brush by them and get to your parents. Wow. He's like, who's these strangers surrounding me? He was like protection. He was like, who are these strangers around my parents? Let me get to my dad. Let me make sure he's all right.
What did I say? What did I say I would have did to my kid, Jared?
Punch him in the chest.
That's right. Hey, your microphone is still
it's not working. I honestly don't know what to do. I don't know.
It is working. It is better. Yeah.
It's just the way you said punch him in the chest. He's like, punch him in the chest.
Yeah.
That plosive came out hot.
I wanted to set Jared up so he could say it.
Like you didn't want to say it. Punch him in the chest.
He said punch him in the chest. I was like, that's
bass
extreme.
Those some speed on that joint.
A little tap.
No, right. So there's a lot of relics, a lot of vestiges about the institution of marriage that just kind of turn me off because generally a wife was the husband's property. You know what I'm saying? And that is only a somewhat recent phenomenon that's not the case. But unfortunately, there are some people who still hold on to that belief system. And truthfully, you don't know a person until you marry him. You know what I mean? And people can present a certain way until they get that ring on your finger. And then all of a sudden, mask off. That terrifies me. I am scared to be.
I think there is truth to that.
Oh, there's definitely truth to that. And there's changes over time. So there's changes when the children come. There's changes when the second child comes. There's changes based on family, even the death of a loved one or a parent can change how you parent and how you relate to your loved one. I mean, there's a lot that goes on. Like
even the evolution of self, like your self changing.
And devolution. And devolution.
Regression. Some of us regress. Back to the mean.
Sometimes politics can get away. Politics, religious beliefs.
Religion.
Culture.
And all of that kicks in when them babies come and the grandparents. What I experienced was that when the in-laws started seeing their grandchildren come, everybody all of a sudden started, where's this ceremony? Where's this? Where's that? You gonna do this? And I was over there like, nah.
They start running your family.
There's an attempt. And wait till I become a grandfather. I'm gonna get mine back.
You're gonna be this, but you're gonna do the Marxist end. You're gonna do the Marxist end of it. It's like, here's the communist man that put that in his crib. He needs to see that. The hammer and sickle. Here's the hammer and sickle. There were mysterious like Ethiopian crosses that found their way in my baby's cribs. And it's just like, who put this here? We're like, where did this come from?
Now at this age, am I wrong for looking at going into a relationship as having a business meeting? Like, all right, this is what I bring.
Yeah.
Business meeting.
That's why it doesn't work for you. That's why you keep breaking up.
I'm in business with you. So don't
have you ever been married? Are you never married?
Yeah, I've been married.
Okay.
How long? How many years?
I think it's like 6, 7, something like that.
You did 6? Okay. It's like a prison stint. You did 6? You did 5?
Well, I was engaged for like a number of years, and then I was like, all right, let me go ahead and get married. I think it was 5 years engagement.
Oh, that sounded really romantic there. He said, he's like,
let's go ahead and do it.
Might as well go do this, right?
Yeah, you know what it was?
How many times you've been engaged?
Just once. Just about to have our second child, and was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and do this. Let me go ahead and marry you.
We ain't getting no younger. We might as well do it. The worst proposal song ever written.
Exactly.
That song.
Divorce song.
It is. Thinking about
it. Speaking of marriage, shout out to my daughter. They got 4 years in today. 4-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Found out my grandson watches the show. My 15-year-old grandson.
Right.
Oh, 15. Okay.
He's coming with his criticism.
You got a 15-year-old grandson?
My grandson will be 16 in September. You know what I'm saying? So, I've been in the game for years. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he's ready too. Yeah.
I have said though, if this don't work, I've been telling my wife for years, if this don't work, it's never happening again. I did say that.
Same deal. Yeah, same deal. I would never. Yeah, never again. Yeah.
Nope.
I'm trying to retire into the old folks home. I was like, when can I see here in the background? I'm trying to retire in the old folks home. I'm like, just put me in a little box, give me some cereal.
Oh no, I told no. I'm opposite. I told my children to lay it out. It better be 5-star accommodations all the way to the end. Yeah, I was like, you better take good care. You better have the basement hooked up. You better have some space for me. Like,
I'm trying to be left alone. No, I've never lived alone, really. So,
oh man, it's.
So you want to spend your twilight years all by yourself?
Great. I'm living alone now.
You want to spend your twilight years all alone, staring out the window with your blanket in your wheelchair?
A little internet, little internet.
Air conditioning and internet.
Some cereal. I'm good.
You can have
always internet, air
conditioning
in a weed connect. Put me
have
anywhere.
The remote control on one side of the bed and just you sleep on the other. That's great.
Little coffee.
No, I don't know if I could go back to being alone. It would take some adjustment because even every time, like even in Atlanta, like if I have to sleep by myself, it's rough. I like the company. I like the feeling that we even just accidentally roll or bump into some, I like that. Like
never get locked up, Jed.
Well, that's the goal. That is the goal. By the way, thank you. Yeah, that is the goal.
Man. Cuddled up.
I can't sleep alone. All right, take it easy. Take it easy.
I had a flashback of that Tu Wong Fu meme.
Yeah, I was gonna say, take it easy.
Wrong.
Take it easy.
That's still floating.
All right, well, listen. Big up to all our remixers tuned in right now. We got 229 people live. We plan on getting a whole lot more by the end of the show. We're going to go ahead and take our first break right here on the Remix Morning Show and get right back to you with some news and all that other things. All right, let's go right here on the Remix Morning Show. Show.
Yeah.
Take me where I want to be. Yeah, big up. This is where you want to be right here on Black Power Media at the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Make sure y'all hit that like button for all my people just coming in right here, right now. And subscribe if you are new to the channel. We got patreon.com that has some other things that you could check out that you don't regularly see on the channel that you could be like, ooh, I got the exclusive. So go to patreon.com, check that out and become a member and all that. With that said, you heard in the background, you know I like to do an artist spotlight. Who am I going to talk about today? No other than Force MDs. That's right. Force MDs coming straight out of, where are they coming out of? Man, anyway, let me talk about Staten Island. They came back. They are an R&B vocal group that came in 1981, straight from Staten Island. Group has old school hip hop roots. We're talking about singing. When we talk about rappers that sing, man, these are like some of the first where you look at singing rappers singing, and also beatboxing and doing all the different elements of hip hop. We even talking about breakdancing. But you might know them for their song Tender Love that came out in the 80s, was played crazily on the Quiet Storm, and Love Is the House that you hear right here in the background. They were like big when it came to the New Jack Swing movement, when that whole movement came around, when it was all about that dancing and hip hop, especially Teddy Riley. And what they did is they hooked up with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. But like I said, they started back then. There was a group that was not quite recognizable as all the other groups, but they mixed doo-wop and hip hop together. They had members that started with them and then died. Some left the group. There's a lot of them had problems with their health conditions. We talk about AIDS, we talk about heart attacks, but yeah, they came around and did their thing. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 albums that came out, and you can hear them on, like, one of the songs is on Crush Groove. You can hear some songs that's on Rapping, which had Mario Van Peebles. He was on that playing a rapper. So they've had movies and all that stuff. And it was also in the movie. doing their thing. So no other than Force MDs, y'all. They had some hits, especially Itching for a Scratch too. So let's go ahead and get back to the crew right here on Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
I used to love Force MDs.
The original name was the Force MCs.
Yep.
The Force MDs. And 5 of the members are dead. 4 of them, including the DJ, and one of the other ones. So I'm not even sure if any of the original members are alive right now. I know Jesse died last year in 2022, Jesse Daniels. But they've all. I mean, it's a horrible story as far as just the deaths. I've never seen an entire group so young leave so early. But that album, that first album was fire. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
that
it
first
was.
tape, if y'all had it,
Yes, it was. And they was working with a bunch of different people, especially Full Force was helping them do production. So they work with
Did they do some stuff with Lisa and Cult Jam? Lisa?
Yeah,
they did some songs.
Yeah. That wasn't. I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
It also is a reminder to me that how much I appreciate that the boom bap era emerged, because I never really, with all due respect, I never liked that keyboard drum sound in a lot of the 80s music. I like the sample based drum that came out a little bit harder later, but
you wasn't a fan of Teddy.
Not
right.
I mean, I appreciated some of it, but I liked some of it at the time. But once the boom bap started to emerge, or I started paying more attention, I don't know, or that was clearly more. I just like a real drum sound. That
he produced the show though, right?
Who's that?
The show. This
Teddy Riley.
Oh yeah.
Teddy. Yeah. So.
Oh, he produced that.
Yeah, he did. That was his first joint.
I never knew that. I actually never knew that. That's what's up. Learn something new every day here at the Remix Morning Show.
I hope y'all do. All right. Well, that's what it is. I'll catch you on the next break. Peace.
See ya.
Right. Ready to slap.
Time is it?
Map the slap time.
Time to slap map. Get it. Yes, y'all. BPM Remix Show be the best, y'all. Yes, y'all. Come on in. Welcome, everybody. It's the Remix Morning Show exclusively here on Black Power Media. Obviously, the most dangerous morning show in these YouTube streets. That's why a lot of y'all come here. Y'all been spreading the word. Y'all been getting these numbers up. So impressed with the live show numbers that we had yesterday and the subsequent views. You know what I'm saying? I see y'all. Yeah, everybody come for different reasons. It's all good. We appreciate you making some time to be with us here today. We got the ear doctor directing this chorus from the background on screen. We have Kalanji Changa, Dr. Jared Ball, and of course, Kamal K. Franklin, CMB, and my brother's keeper.
Yep.
Oh, I fell flat. I didn't know it was supposed to be call and response. I didn't know it was call and response. My bad.
That lawyer from uptown, Christopher Williams.
Fell flat. My bad.
African, dog. That call and response supposed to come natural. Like Jared, watch this. Jared, tell me what you feel like doing, y'all.
Feel like moving that body.
Thank you. All right.
That's go-go, baby. That's I'm about to turn the table over. Kim get me amped already. Careful now, Kim. We going to become a problem out here.
I mean,
that's how the song goes, just like that.
That's the call and response. And response. So when I say, am I my brother's keeper, African people are supposed to respond and say, yes, I am.
What the thing is for me, when I think about that movie, every time I think about it, the first thing I think about is Christopher Williams getting stabbed in the hand. You know what I'm saying? At the table. You know
this was just the downfall of the light skin era.
Oh,
that was all. It was just part of the whole thing, and it was terrible. It was terrible.
It was the most traumatic moment on screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I never liked that pretty mother.
Exactly. It was like
he's the real brains behind operations.
Every time to this day, every time somebody say you see New Jack City, I'm like.
The way that Kwame, the artist Kwame proclaims that his career was over as soon as Biggie said your style was played out like Kwame and them fucking polka dots. Kwame said it was over right then. It was over the same way for light skinned dudes when Christopher Williams got stabbed and it was over in a minute.
We all had all of us had that look in the mirror moment. Take off the outfit, go back, put it back in the closet, be like,
look for light skinned cats to stab in the hand back then. Like, come here, let me see your hand, pretty mom. You know what I'm saying? That's how we go. Yeah.
Just real quick, because I know it's getting ever more obvious. I'm getting a little more egregious with the promo for this Saturday's book launch party. Okay. And by Friday, I'm working on this. By Friday on EYL, there will literally be a 3D hologram that pops out onto your computer, reminding you that Saturday is the live. So just as a quick, please,
What time is it, Jared? Even though we can see it in your background.
7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on BPM.
Okay. Can we slide through and like critique?
Everybody is invited to slide through. Okay. And because there will be a live component happening here at the house, you never know. You just don't know. I just don't know what's going to happen that day. I literally don't know.
We'll be up there with.
All right, I will send it. Let's go.
Are you going to have guests on? What's going to happen on the book?
I don't know. It depends on how people feel. I honestly don't know how to. It's going to be a whole bunch of people. It's going to be people coming over, cookout, kids, family.
Okay.
Drinks, I'm sure something's going on, and then at 7 o'clock we're gonna stumble on up here. And be like, no, I'm just playing, and we'll see. Whoever wants to be on camera is more than welcome. And now I got to put this warning out to the live folks. There's a slight issue going on at the Ball household, so we got to see in terms of our HVAC just died.
Oh no!
So it's a little warm, little extra, So we're working on that. Now the rumor is that it's going to be relatively rainy and cooler that day, so we might get a little bit lucky if we can't get it fixed by then.
That means more mosquitoes, right?
It's gonna be just
Yeah.
Just put a couple more ice cubes in the drink and keep it moving. You know what I mean? Yeah.
We just did this event around Cop City, and we had a brother come up who was a native person from the Muskogee tribe, and they were talking about the ways in which we're destroying the planet. And he gave a beautiful, beautiful speech about the history of the Woolani Forest, the history of obviously indigenous ethnic cleansing, and it was very moving. But when he started talking about the ways in which we're destroying the planet, one of the things he said, he was like, every time you turn your air conditioner on and you turn it up and you turn it down, you're destroying the planet. And I did one of my little well, I was like, well, I mean, do we have to go without air conditioning? I mean, that was what it popped in my mind. I had the whole well, I'm with you up until that point. So.
Hold on, what was his argument though? Was it based on the chemicals that's used, the chlorofluorocarbons or something to that effect that's released into the air, or is he talking about the actual usage of energy and power to power those AC units?
I'm not 1,000%. I'm thinking it's a combination of I haven't read about but my understanding is that obviously air conditioning is not the use of it is not good for the environment, right? For various reasons. And so I've heard that argument before in terms of too much air conditioning usage, kind of spread over massive amount of people, and it does damage to the environment. Not 1,000% sure as to the reason why per se, but I've heard the argument before. But it's all I've also me and Kali would get Kali Akunu, we get into debates, or had discussions, I should say, around part of the revolution, people's going to have to accept less and smaller this and smaller that, and part of me is like, well, are you really going to encourage people to be a part of something by saying they're going to have a lower standard of life? I was like, isn't it the idea you're going to bring everybody up to a particular standard? And for me, that includes indoor air conditioning. It's part of the revolution.
We start at the top, though. See, I think I'm with you on this one, Kamal. That's why we got to start at the top. If we could get rid of if we redistribute downwards, starting with some of the egregious stuff, like the heated floors maybe that people have in their kitchens and stuff like that, so that we could, you know what I mean? But the air conditioning should be, I think, the last That should be on the last thing.
So, so for us, we do like we do these quarterly trainings, right? We do trainings where survival trainings as if there is some type of apocalypse or something goes down or whatever. So you have to live with your folks and whatnot. You got your go bag, and for those 3 days or so, you have to move as if everything's shut down. You know what I mean? So it's, you're going on missions, the whole nine. So I think that if we could prepare ourselves for that, because when you have situations like Katrina and all of that, things shut down, then everybody's jacked up. You're in an arena with 1,000 people, and you talking about some air conditioning, and there is no air conditioning, and you sleeping on the floor or something. It's a whole nother program.
That's why there's gonna be fights, because I'm gonna have me a little fan or a little something. I'm gonna be the one sneaking out. I'm gonna be the one. They're not gonna rob me, son. I'm gonna be the one sneaking out with the chips, and they're gonna be like, "Where all the food at?" I'd be like, "I don't know where that went. I don't know where that went."
Crumbs on his beard. Right. I don't know.
I don't know where the last Oreos went. I don't know.
Day 2 is gonna be a Kamau sandwich, folks. Gonna be,
Hey,
when it comes to go ahead.
I just saw somebody put something about the military in there, and I just wanted to say I served on a flagship aircraft carrier. Okay, nuclear aircraft carrier. We had air conditioning everywhere. We had no room, dirty little living quarters and bathroom, but we had air conditioning everywhere. And when it went out, Knuckles started coming up.
But that was on the ship, though, right?
It was on a ship, and when the air conditioning went out and everybody was hot and crowded, it was like all of a sudden all the black eyes started showing up, all the ripped clothes.
Yeah,
all the got a little more heat.
Air conditioning keeps us civilized. People don't know that. That's right. That's right.
And most importantly, air conditioning saves lives. In instances where we have had category 4 and 5 hurricanes hit, well, anywhere really, but let's focus on the US. So I remember one of those big Cat 4, Cat 5 storms hit Florida, and dozens of elders perished in these nursing homes because the air went out. Like air conditioning, I can see on one hand can be viewed as a luxury, but some people literally cannot and won't survive if the temperatures exceed a certain amount. Like, I wish that there was more encouragement of innovation. Like, I feel like there's got to be a way to replicate the effects of air conditioning, perhaps without using chemicals like Freon, right? Like, I think, in some indigenous land, I can't remember where it was, but they would use giant ice cubes. Maybe this was even here, 19th, 18th century US, but they would get these big ice cubes and put them somewhere in a room, and the vapor would help to cool off the air in the room. Like, I feel like we're in the 21st century. There's some innovation here that we don't necessarily have to go without air conditioning, but we can chemicalize it in a way and do it in a more eco-friendly way. But getting rid of it is not an option, because there are elders and disabled people that literally need air conditioning to survive.
And the only pushback on that is that that's crazy. Is that I think that we're spoiled here in the US, because you have countries without electricity, without running water, without clean water. And it's like, I think that we have to be more creative with the types of housing that we have as well, because there's so many people that die daily because they can't even get clean water. And we have luxuries like air conditioning, and it's like, oh man, you're gonna die without the air conditioning. I'm not talking about the elders and people who are sick, but I'm just saying, like, these brothers right here joking about the whole situation around air conditioning. It's like, how does the rest of the civilized world survive without air conditioning? You know what I'm saying? Because there's love and there's creativity, and the more capitalism it is, the more chance of them knuckles flying that you're talking about. Because,
no question.
Folks got along for centuries before an air conditioner was invented. Hand fans or whatever. So,
would they have preferred air conditioning? Would they like? Would they prefer
air conditioning?
Well, my point is, I hear everything that you all are saying, and all jokes aside, I hear you, and we do need a more sustainable way. But in general, I'm in favor of raising everybody's standard of living as opposed to lowering existing standards, except for the enormously rich, the egregiously rich. Their standards have to come down. Like, that class can't even exist. But I would like to at least start there and then see how much we can redistribute before we start really going too far into to taking away what I'm spoiled by.
Yeah, exactly. I've done my time. I've had, project living. You got that wall air conditioning unit that goes out. You got the fan where you pump in the hot air. I'm not used to all this. I'm not used to all this thing.
Wait. Y'all your project?
No, you got a little. You don't know the air conditioner, the box. Like you buy the air conditioner, you stick it in the window.
Oh, some of this you buy. I thought you were talking about
no.
the unit.
Oh no.
Hot ass radiators. You know what I'm saying? So you roll over. My brother still got.
We did have the heat. Yeah, no. We did. You did have the heat thing with the pipes banging and the heat coming up. At least they provided that. But in the summertime, you was on your own.
I was gonna say,
in our suburban hood, we had central air. Wow. And I do remember as a child, one summer in particular where we did not have it for a bulk of the summer. And my relationship with my mother has never recovered. That's all it took, my man. One summer with no air conditioning and it deteriorates everybody's. No, I'm just playing. But no, I get it. I'm with you.
My aunt in Atlanta, when I first came here in '86. No, before that, I remember my family visited, and one of the things that everybody was bragging about when we got back home was like, yeah, they got central air conditioning. They got such and such, because that was like a mad luxury. You know what I'm saying? We had the dusty fans, put a box fan in the window, and let it do what it do. You know what I'm saying? I lived on the 6th floor, so this is what, it was a straight hot box. But like I said, those fans, they do the trick. But yeah, I didn't know.
So speaking of that, we can segue into a story here that is related to this that came out yesterday or this morning rather, from Naked Capitalism that says low wages and rising cost of living are driving more into homelessness as government tries to hide rather than solve the problem. I think a very interesting several points are made here. That a common talking point about the homelessness crisis is that the majority of people living in the streets are drug addicts and or mentally ill. New research in California, which has roughly a third of the country's 582,000 homeless population, shows that while mental illness and addiction play a role, the main driver behind homelessness is the increasing precariousness of the working poor. And then as they go into with some of the details here, that most of this is resulting from older people with just, as it says here, one bad break, going from living from a state of precariousness to actually losing their homes. The LA Times reports that these are old people losing housing. They are basically ticking. They basically were ticking along very poor, and sometime after the age of 50, something happened. Kushnell said that a divorce, a loved one dying, an illness, even a cutback in hours on the job sparked a downward spiral, and their lives just blew up. Kushnell and her team found that nearly half of single adults living on our streets are over the age of 50. 7% of all homeless adults, single or in families, are over 65, and 41% of those older single Californians had never been homeless, not one day in their lives before the age of 50. And some of the points that you all were pointing to regarding air conditioning in this general state of affairs for many people, nationwide research by the University of California, Riverside, published earlier this year in the Journal of the American Medical Association, found that the death of 183,000 Americans aged 15 years old and above in 2019 could be attributed to poverty. The UCR study shows that poverty is the fourth leading cause of death in the U.S. after heart disease, cancer, and smoking, and poverty remains a huge issue in the U.S., much more than in other quote-unquote developed countries. So anyway, that's
Can you
sure.
Read that last line again? Can I process that? Poverty kills more than what other causes?
Sure. The UCR study shows that that poverty is the fourth leading cause of death in the U.S. after heart disease, cancer, and smoking. And poverty remains a huge issue in the U.S., much more than in other so-called developed countries.
But them damn air conditioners, as we talking about, you know what I'm saying? People are dying in real time. You're talking about the fourth leading cause of death in the United States, not in the world. So imagine other places that have, I mean, where folks have less than what's going on here. It's insane that at the same time you can have folks with hundreds of billions of dollars. You can have folks taking trips on a damn submarine or a little submersive spending $250,000 for a joyride. You know, this is I don't understand how the poor hasn't eaten the rich yet. I mean, this is like,
and tens of millions in the search and rescue. I remember one stat I always remember from my time on that aircraft carrier, and I know the ships and all that were looking for that submersible weren't maybe as big, but they said, this is in the early 1990s. They said we spent $1 million a day just in gas moving that ship around. $1 million a day.
That's one ship.
One ship. One day. $1 million. And this is 1990s money.
I believe that. Yeah.
So that was in the 90s.
That's early 90s. So, and then if you think of it, I like to think of it the other way. That means some group of oligarchical leaders are getting $1 million a day for the operation of that one ship. So just in the search and rescue alone, never mind the cost of the people that went down there, there's so much money being spent. Or so many resources being spent, and then you got, like you said, we got people dying all over the place in this country just over poverty, just because. And then so much more of it is happening. And I admit that stat hit me pretty hard, having just crossed over 51. I'm like, damn, you could go. I could have done just my life, which is by no means harder than anybody else's, but just in my life, Kamal, you said I put in my dues. Labor-wise, suffering-wise. I'm like, I've done enough. So I'm like, I can imagine living harder than I've lived, and then you lose it all. I mean, at 50 and over. I mean, that's no, here it is. John hit it perfectly. That's insane. It's insane.
I mean, there is no soft life for elders in America, despite this country having a so-called high standard of living, the amount of money and resources and capital that America has. It does nothing, very little in the way of looking out for people as they begin to age. And this is part and parcel with how America is, period. Like, if you are not able-bodied, able to have your labor exploited, then what use do they have for you? If you're sick, if you're disabled, if you're infirmed, if you are not able to produce labor, you're a throwaway person. They will disregard you, your life, your existence, your possessions, and treat you accordingly. And that's all the more reason why this system needs to be overturned. There's no aspect of capitalism, I suppose, that actually looks out for vulnerable people, and this includes children, and this includes disabled, and this especially includes the elderly. So as we all approach and go into those 50 and above years, I mean, it definitely makes me increasingly concerned about my own outcomes. You know what I'm saying? Again, I'm a disabled person. To the extent that the system can exploit my labor is probably a little limited right now. So should a crack or a giant fissure emerge in my life, they'll be perfectly content to let me fall right through that bitch. And that goes for everybody that is not able to produce and do for the system.
Mm-hmm. And the only housing you'll get after that will be like if you get locked up because you on the street. So you get locked up and get into the jail, get into prison, then they'll feed you and all that kind of stuff. And I guess this phenomenon has been around for a while, but when you look at fast food restaurants, right, you see the mixture, you see 16-year-olds and you see 60-year-olds, right? Or 70-year-olds even. And it's just like, why is this person, having to do, you know why they have to do it, but it's in your head. You're like, this is crazy. Like, this person should be doing something else or resting or retired, but they have to work because they probably have to feed themselves. They may have to help out with the family or the grandkids. The system is so skewed that becomes the normal behavior, and the solutions become. And somebody else said this to me the other day, and I don't know, they were half joking or whatever, but they were actually saying things like, it's good that they're lowering the age for folks to work at so younger people can work and make money. It's like, no, it's not good. That's not an after school jobs program. That's to get you back into the economy. They can worry less about you. You got nimble fingers. They can pay you less and to get you on an assembly line making some product for somebody.
Right now, one of our veteran Panthers, a former political prisoner, is making $230-something a month, living off that inside of in Boston, Massachusetts. So you already know the cost of living and how crazy that is. First of all, you can't even afford rent. Secondly, how do you eat? You understand what I'm saying? So here it is, someone that has committed themselves to fighting on behalf of us, in behalf of people and animals and plants and everything else, life, and you barely can move around yourself. So we talk about gas and all of that. That's not even a thought. You know, food is man. I mean, to some, keeping it 100, food is a luxury. That's why it's important to continue to support community-based organizations, also churches and places that actually give to the people. Because to us, we might think that, oh well, you know, this bag of groceries or this sandwich in a bag or whatever the case is nothing. But when your stomach's growling and you don't know where your next meal is coming from, certain things aren't. You know, I mean, you got people down here. You have water boys. You have the boys on the corner selling waters instead of selling drugs or whatever else, any criminal joints, and they criminalize it. You know what I'm saying? They snatching.
Hey, man, I don't want to. I hesitate to share these little stories. I usually don't, because I know how it comes off, but I can't. Like I did a couple weeks ago after especially after that Freedom Scholar money hit. I went through Baltimore on my way to work, lacing them cats. Like they were confused at how much I was dropping on them. I was like, I don't even want you to do the window. I was like, just take this right here. They were like, I was like, you know, because that's, you know, and then for them to turn around and start getting blamed for all this crime and all this other stuff. And again, as I've said before, I have not had the hardest life, but in 5 minutes of homelessness, it was straight crime. 5 minutes, 5 whole complete minutes of not knowing where that next meal was coming from. Straight to crime, straight. No thug here, no nothing. But I didn't, not attacking people. That was my only rule. I'm not going to take it from a person, but straight to the crime. I was like, straight to the, there's a store right there.
And to be clear, when Jerry said he was lacing cats, he means the squeegee kids of Baltimore.
Oh yeah,
you know
sorry, right. I'm sorry, right.
The kids that walk the corners and offer to clean people's windows for money. Right. And to the kids' credit, you know, obviously they take cash, but the children have had to become innovative, and a lot of them do have Cash Apps and Venmos.
That's right.
So you know, but people who live in the county, I think it's a wonderful idea that when you go to the city, you could put some cash in your pocket, you know what I'm saying? And you keep your window rolled down. Don't you roll your window up on that young man asking to come clean your window. You break him off. Don't be scared of him. But
sometimes it's timely and helpful. You need a little, get the bug off. Like, it's like, usually I don't even ask them to do it, but every once in a while I'm like, man, you know, that is right in my face. If you don't mind, since you got the squeegee,
one of the wild things too is, like, because we've become such a card-based society in terms of currency, is like, you brought that up. It's like, and I don't have cash like I used to, because I used to, like, you know, my kids will chastise because we're going someplace and someone's asking, and in the past it'd be like you just dip in your pocket and take out, and these days you're like, oh shit, I don't have any cash.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That is a good point. No, sometimes it's a premeditated, like these were premeditated. Like I was like, I know I'm going to work. And honestly, on most days, this is how bad it really is, though. The amount of people on the corners, if I, you know, I've tried to even do the math. If I gave money to every single person, I don't know if I could even afford to go to work.
No.
I mean, there's just so many people out there, man. And then in Columbia here, I used to make it as a sad joke, but when you start seeing white families in Howard County with their kids on the corner looking for money, that's what I was like, oh, we've really hit the collapse. Like white families out here in Maryland, I was like, yeah, we've this country it's a wrap.
and then right, there's neighborhoods, you know, when you talk about organizing in communities and whatnot, you know, some are worse than others. You know what I'm saying? When you look around, literally, like I said before, you know, you're seeing a mother of 3 with a size 7 and a size 9 shoe. You understand what I'm saying? And just moving along, you think it's something wrong with a leg. Eventually something will be wrong with it. But it's just like, this is how they're living. And when you see, like, you know, and I meant to take you, if we had time, we didn't have time when you were here, you know what I'm saying, to places where you literally have people out, you know, selling themselves for like $5. You understand what I'm saying? So this is how real it is. And I'm saying this because, and shout out to everybody, because one of the things that we take for granted, we talk about situation, we talk about, you know, back when I was in the project, so on and so forth. I got a lot of brothers and sisters that check out the show right now, and they're in the middle of any hood USA, and love is love, and so it's not like, I want to be clear that we're not talking like, I'm not talking, I can't speak for everybody, but like we have advanced beyond some point of no return. There's people right now who are suffering, who are in homeless shelters, because I met folks who told me that, yo, I check out y'all show every day. I stay over here, blah, blah, blah. You understand what I'm saying? So shout out and major love and respect to all of our people out here, because it's not, we're not catering to any one particular class or pay grade or any of that type of stuff. So shout out to those who's going through it, and just know that we're going to win in spite of ourselves. That's the encouragement.
And right on cue, proof that Kalonji is telling the truth about our eventual victory. We have this bit of news coming out from Politico that is going to solve all of our current problems, because Joe Biden is here with Bidenomics. He's put all his chips on the table with a push on Bidenomics.
Reaganomics.
So that's
Reaganomics.
That's basically.
You say Biden. You say Bidenomics. All I heard was Reaganomics. What?
Because that's all it is. It's Obamanomics. It's Bushonomics. it's all it. Yeah.
Nixonomics.
All of it, exactly. And the bottom line is, talking about putting money into manufacturing, high-speed internet, and cracking down on industries that charge so-called junk fees. I mean, it's the same.
That was some bullshit, by the way. Did you see Joe Biden beat his chest? Oh, I'm gonna make Ticketmaster and them cut out the junk fees. No, Ticketmaster just lumped them junks in at the end. They just present to you the end price with all the fees added up. No fees have been subtracted or deleted. He talking about we getting rid of junk fees. No, nigga.
But the tickets go up though.
And worse than that, though, you can't even with or without the fees. If it's not Live Nation or Ticketmaster, you can't go to a show anyway. So they got the whole damn thing. So even if so
$10 show costs $40.
Yeah,
and that's
what
not
was the other part of his platform. What else was he saying about? He said it increased manufacturing, high-speed internet. Yawn.
And
damn, this is Bushonomics. I've heard this for 30 fucking years. We're going to bring back U.S. manufacturing from overseas. No, you're not. Because you're going to have to pay U.S. workers. Y'all don't want to do that.
But the thing is, I'm not going to lie, for me, in my lifetime, the most scariest time for me out of all of these bastards that were sitting in office, I think when you talk about Reaganomics, for me, that was like the coldest. You know what I'm saying? That felt like death. That felt like the living dead. Like when you talk about poverty, and maybe it's just, my experience, but Reagan was just like, you felt like you were under some type of true dictatorship. I didn't really give a fuck about Trump, but Reagan was like that dude. He was like, to me, Ronald Wilson Reagan was the epitome of Satan in person. And then when they popped him and he didn't croak, I was like, this mother won't even die.
Just real quick, because I know Ear Doctor's about to come up. The story says, I mean, essentially he's just promising more money. He's making more promises and promising to address what is, according to the Pew Research Center, inflation as the country's public top concern. But his job approval rating is mired at 35%. So, and if I remember correctly, that's Bush level lows, right? That's like he's like, this is. I thought he's supposed to be the improvement, but the point is, it's just more promises of money coming, starting with businesses. It'll trickle down, as Reagan, was famous for claiming, and there it is. So, but the rising tide that does lift all our boats is the Ear Doctor,
the vice president.
Hey, I'm still big up to all those people that got their college, stuff knocked out. What is it?
But they didn't though. But they didn't.
I know.
I did.
I did.
My wife didn't.
Got a bonus.
My wife didn't, and they did. There was one line in my thing in our document that said that part of what they considered was my military service. So I and I will say they still owe me. This isn't enough, but it was a nice. I'm not gonna front. It was nice.
So even with the interview later, if Wes is around. So we're talking about legalizing marijuana, taking care of these college debts. So is that going to be the whole thing too this time, this go around?
Well, I like West's platform, and to the extent that I've been hearing West's platform, I think it provides a baseline standard for what people's expectations should be from someone they vote for. So when he says, "I'm not moving into the White House until everybody has a house," like that to me is a good. I like that. I like that as a point.
You'll never be moving into the White House then.
Well, hopefully we'll be 2:00 today. He's set to join us 2 p.m. today, so we'll
find out. All right. Well, right now this is the Remix Morning Show. We're gonna go ahead and take another quick break, and we're gonna come back with some more news and different things to talk about. So stay tuned right here on the Remix Morning Show. The show. All right, all my people that's in the chat room that just heard that song, go ahead and name it in the chat room. If you do know this song, I'll give you a little bit more of it. You got to name that song, though. Anyway, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to Did You Hear That Before? Yes. For all my people that's just stepping in, we got 337 people live watching right now. Let's get 337 likes also. And go ahead and subscribe if you're just coming in so you can get some more of this and all the other different shows beeping right in your phone like, oh, here comes some more BPM. Let's get it. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and talk about I Heard That Before. And what is I Heard That Before? I heard this sample before, but how did I hear it again now? So with that said, let me go ahead into this song right here. Now, this song came out by a group called War on their album All Day Music, and it was released in 1971, and it was a song called Slipping Into the Darkness. This song was a banger. War was a group that gave you some hard tunes, and then that song came out. In about 1990, another song came out with that same beat, which was flipped by a producer named Tony D for a group called Poor Righteous Teachers on their Holy Intellect album. That's right, their Holy Intellect album, which came out in 1990. Poor Righteous Teachers came out and used that same beat and wound up getting sued for using that beat, which caused a little problems with them and their music, especially the divide between them and Tony D, their producer. So big up to the people that came out, War, and then Poor Righteous Teachers for keeping this beat alive. All right, with that said, let's keep it moving right back to the Remix Morning Show. Now we go.
Funky joints.
Yo, shout out to Wise Intelligent, which is one of the dopest MCs to this day. Shout out to Balagoon. Balagoon and I had the opportunity to produce a video for Wise Intelligent and our crew out of DC, Diaspora Black. I'm messing up. But yeah, so we produced a video for Wise Intelligent and Diaspora Black, and we actually was working on putting together a tour with Wise Intelligent and Sonny Patterson. Only got one show off, but it worked out. It was one of the dopest joint.
So War is one of the most underrated funk bands. Really, I don't think people talk about and rightfully so. P-Funk, Funkadelic, Graham Central Station, JB's, Bootsy and them, Bootsy's Rubber Band, etc. I don't think we give War as much as their recognition as they deserve for musicians, for being outstanding live musicians, and for their vocals, their harmonies. Like, these brothers were singing. If you listen to the very beginning of Slipping in the Darkness, it starts off like a spiritual. Like I feel like I'm down by the river with the tambourine. I was slipping. Like War is extremely, extremely good.
That's pretty good, Kim. Do that again.
And but that sample has been used not just by Poor Righteous Teachers, which I think was the best use of the sample in Rock This Funky Joint. TLC used it on I'm Good at Being Bad, which is one of my favorite TLC songs. That sample has gotten some run. That sample has gotten plenty run.
And they threw okay, go ahead, Jared.
I was just saying
they threw a wrench in real quick. They threw a wrench in the whole PRT production with that by suing them for that song, because it threw a wrench in the later projects, because they never really got a lot money that they should have, because they got sued by War. Go ahead, Jared.
No, I was just gonna say one of my favorite versions of "Slipping in the Darkness" was performed by Maisha and the Hip Huggers, featuring Sugar Bear and Juju from EU. And when they hit, they used to that pocket come in with the little. I'm telling you, oh man, I gotta go to a show. I gotta get out of here. I gotta go to a show. Somebody do a go-go in the daytime. Anyway.
do the day cycle. I have a question though. Was Poor Righteous Teachers actually sued by War? I'm not sure if War was actually in ownership or in possession of their master. So was it War that sued Poor Righteous Teachers, or was it whoever owned the rights to the publishing at the time?
I will check on that and get back to you, but I know the group, for that song, they was like, oh, we gotta eat, we gotta get back on the scene. So we need that money.
Hey, do you guys think that the elder artists of the 70s, 60s, etc., were justified in being disgruntled when hip hop started cherry picking, some of their greatest and even most obscure hits? Like, you think that was a legit beef? I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I literally got a text yesterday from someone from the Last Poets Management about an artist I know that sampled their stuff that didn't give them any credit for it. So I literally got to contact this artist today because we have a relationship, and it's just like I happen to know that the particular person who owns that particular publishing, is going through some things. So you got to hit them off. So indeed, it's like, I think the thing that people don't look like is when someone creates something that's like a video. If I create a video and you sample it, you chop it up, and you add whatever you want to it, it's still my original work. That's the foundation for your success. You understand what I'm saying? So people look at it like, well, it was us being creative. If it wasn't for the artist, the original artist, you wouldn't have that level of creativity because it did not exist. You're basing it off what someone else, came with. And
I always saw it the other way, because I used to read liner notes all the time, and if you give the credit, it should be all good. That should be it, because my thing was the reverse. Most of us growing up in the late 70s, mid 70s, early 80s, we wouldn't have known about all of those groups.
At that point,
so I did learn about James Brown and whoever by literally reading learned about Fred Stubblefield specifically by reading the liner notes to learn about who was doing the drums. Where was that coming from?
I agree with you saying, but I see it like this, right? So let's say I have some property, right? And, let's say I'm not able to keep the property up, but I still own the property. And you decide that, man, this property's blighted and whatnot. So I'm going to cut the grass and I'm decide I'm going to open up a business here. And now I'm making money off of this particular property and whatnot. Can you just really just take it because you said shout out to Kalonji because of the fact that, I know he owned his property and whatnot, but he wasn't doing that with it. So like Jay-Z said, you made it a hot song. You made it a hot line. I made it a hot song.
And to add to that, what if they do a revised version of The Myth of Blind Power? Like if somebody came and did a revised version of that, would you be like, oh, that's cool as long as they mention me?
Let's do this because we have some important guests here joining us to talk about Cuba and internationalism and something serious. I will come back later on and explain why Kalonji and Ear Doctor are entirely wrong.
Thank you. I'll be here for that. Let's do it right here on the Remix Morning Show, y'all.
Peace. 1 2 1 2.
Right. Welcome back to the Remix Morning Show. We are joined this morning by some comrades here to, I believe, talk about some recent ongoings with Cuba. Of course, well known to these streets here, BPM, Net for Freeman, joined by, forgive any mispronunciations, Shaquille Fontenot and Kala Walsh. How close did I get?
You got one right.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Say what I get wrong?
You got the last name right. It's Shaquille.
Shaquille.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
So close. Okay. My bad. Anyway, welcome to all of you. Nefa, good to see you again. As always, I will let me let you get it started and tell us what's going on, what brings you all here, and what we need to know.
Okay, I'm gonna let Kala and Shaquille do most of the talking, but why we're here is because last weekend, at the same time, unfortunately, at the same time as the conference that was happening in Atlanta, we had a weekend of action to demand that the U.S., particularly the Biden administration, remove Cuba off their list of state sponsors of terrorism, which is a means of enforcing blockade and trying to isolate the country. And so we just had a whole bunch of stuff that was going on, mostly, in fact, dare I say, all coordinated by Kala and Shaquille. And so that's why they're going to do most of the talking. All right. Shout out to NNOC, Comrade Erica Keynes. But anyway, that's the short.
Okay, right on.
It was dynamic. It was, it was very successful. They might not brag it up like that, but it is. And they did an excellent job. And people was coming up to me, oh yeah, you did it. You must be tired. It's like, man, I'm just doing what the young people tell me to do. That's we got to that. That's what we've been struggling for, right? And they just like, man, I'm sorry. They just like took it, not just those two, but it was just a whole, there's a whole movement, just a whole group of people that are ready to take the helm in terms of at least this Cuba solidarity work. But I think it's even deeper than that, because they're decidedly anti-imperialist, and with the real definition of the word, not some vague, fake, loosely, used term of imperialism, and just know how to compare, interlock or interrelate the imperial question of imperialism to domestic oppression and what we need to be doing in this country and otherwise. So I'm just like really inspired. I don't know what else I could say. But there's a lot I could say. But
no, the effort was well represented, by the way, in Atlanta too. If folks haven't seen some of the Instagram and other videos coming up from BAP and community movement builders and elsewhere, you could see there was a contingent supportive of those efforts. So it was dope. But what else would you like to tell us about what's going on, and maybe even a little bit of a reminder as to why this issue is important and solidarity with Cuba is important in 2023? Because here, I don't know if you all saw earlier in the show, we're getting Bidenomics. So maybe Cuba could learn something from us.
Everybody
from them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank y'all for having us here. I'm going to leave, the importance of getting Cuba off a list to Kala, because she's been speaking a lot about that lately. But I just wanted to highlight kind of the significance of the events that went down this past weekend. So when we first launched the Off the List campaign in support of Cuba, we really had a U.S., focus trying to figure out how to mobilize cities within the United States. And then Canada joined on, but we had thousands of people from coast to coast and in other countries collaborating with us on amplifying all these issues that we were mentioning. So we had Jamaica, the Philippines, Bahamas, Bolivia, Australia, these countries all standing in solidarity with Cuba. And we had over 5,000 people participate in our social media storm, and over 120 organizations endorsed the action, some of them not even members of the National Network on Cuba. So we saw over 40 solidarity actions just over the past week and weekend. And I think this new collaboration across parties, across lines, speaks to kind of the acceleration of international solidarity movements in the fall of U.S. hegemony across the world, because we're seeing a shift in global power dynamics that are fueled by increased connectivity and awareness of the fact that U.S. imperialism is just not going to work for the people anymore. So I think beyond it being Cuba solidarity efforts, we're seeing this international solidarity movement develop, and especially with African people across the world. And we're seeing the need for this multi-layered and multi-generational collaboration in the pursuit of common goals, which are to defeat imperialism. So it's obviously a complex and ongoing process, but I think this weekend showed us that through artistic collaboration with healthcare professionals, workers, students, that revolution in our lifetime really is possible. So I wanted to kind of uplift the impact of what we saw. It was really beyond like what we thought would happen. And I mean, still there's a lot of processing to do because like you said, our comrades in Atlanta, those struggling against Cop City, they participated in the efforts as well. And the national conversation about community control of the police, all these things are intertwined in reshaping the global order. And the rise of this collective action is just really, like I said, it really encouraging increased collaboration, importance of cooperation, dialogue, and inclusivity in addressing all the challenges we face today. So that's my general spiel of like the importance, but I'll throw it over to Kala to speak specifically about SSOT.
Thanks so much for having us on, y'all. I think the last time we were on here was to discuss the Mayday Brigade, and that was also a great success. We saw how going to Cuba really transforms people, and a lot more organizers have joined our movement and helped us organize these June 25th protests, which is part of why they were such a great success, because we're people who just got back from Cuba. We saw how dire the economic crisis is there because of the blockade, because of this SSOT designation. So why is this important in 2023? Cuba right now is what we would call a second special period, a similar economic crisis to what they faced after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And because of that, the US is really doubling down on their war on Cuba to try to overthrow the revolutionary Cuban government and just put maximum pressure. Biden is upholding all of Trump's hawkish policies that he added after reversing, Obama's normalization policy, despite Biden promising to return to Obama's policy. And because of that, more people are leaving Cuba than ever because of this economic crisis. And of course, the state sponsors of terrorism list, putting Cuba on it, is one of the most cruel measures. Of course, like the word terrorism doesn't really have any meaning when it's used by the US. It's this word that's weaponized by the US against Cuba, against the other countries on the list, like Syria, Iran, the DPRK, North Korea. But it's also weaponized against domestic activists that are struggling for liberation. For example, Stop Cop City activists have been charged with domestic terrorism, and they're having their own week of action right now. So we really saw the interconnectedness between all these different countries, all these different issues, because we share the same enemy, which is US imperialism. And that's part of why these protests were so strong. But this terrorist designation, it hurts Cuba economically. It limits their ability to trade internationally, even more so than they're limited by the blockade. After the designation was put in place by Trump in 2021, I want to say over 43 international banks cut Cuba off. Even if they're not US banks, the US is the global empire, controls the entire financial system, the World Bank, the IMF, the dollar is the global reserve currency. And therefore, a lot of countries and international financial institutions are just absolutely under the will of US policy, and they over comply with US sanctions out of fear of retaliation, because the US has sued different entities, even its own allies. Like a French company a couple years ago sued hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars for violating US sanctions on Cuba. So that's why we're focusing. 1.3 billion is what they sued this French company for. So the blockade and the SSOT list, even though these are only maintained by the US, they are extraterritorial, and they limit Cuba's ability to trade with other countries, which is why we call it a blockade. So the SSOT list is really exacerbating the crisis that Cuba was already going through because of the blockade, and that's why we're focusing on getting Cuba off the list. And it also has a lot of political weight. Just the word terrorism carries so much weight in the US, and putting countries on this list is an attempt to isolate them internationally. So we're also trying to change the conversation, turn it around, because the US is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. And especially towards Cuba, there is this long history of the US backing literal terrorism against Cuba, whether it is bombing planes, bombing hotels, doing biological warfare, destroying Cuban crops and infrastructure. So we're trying to, turn the conversation around and actually highlight the fact that the US is committing terrorism against Cuba. And that's what we should be demanding an end to. So I think we made our voices loud and clear. Of course, Biden hasn't changed anything yet, but I think he is really starting to feel the pressure because over 500 of us were rallying outside the White House, and there were over 50 other rallies taking place across the country and across the world.
Yeah.
What immediate plans of action or suggestions do you have for anti-imperialist media like us, like Black Power Media and others? Our audience, of course, our audiences spread, across different waters and borders, so on and so forth. What can we suggest that our audience and, like I said, media outlets like ourselves, what do you have for us long term? Are there any plans of action that we can plug into and say, okay, boom, this is how we're going to be in solidarity with these particular organizers and Cuba?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question to be asking because, of course, this U.S. war on Cuba has a lot of different parts. And one of the biggest ones is the media war that the U.S. just spends tens of millions of dollars on, putting out this propaganda against Cuba, which is the only way they can justify the cruel blockade. They can't justify it with facts. They have to make up lies. And so I think it's really important for all people, but especially media outlets that aren't controlled by corporations, by the anti-Cuba lobby, to be putting out the truth about Cuba. And especially when the US is putting out this new, really warmongering propaganda, for example, that there's a so-called Chinese spy base on Cuba, to be correcting that, to be talking about what's really happening in Cuba, which is an illegal occupation by the US of Guantanamo Bay. So that's just one example. But every time these stories come out, they're meant to fearmonger, to turn public opinion against Cuba, and to keep US people from realizing that Cuba is actually the model we should be aspiring to follow. We should be asking for free housing, free healthcare, free education, which Cubans have had for over 60 years. So uplifting Cuba's accomplishments, but also telling the truth about how life is hard there because of the blockade. We can do both of those things at the same time.
How has the immigration policies of the Biden administration, which are basically the carbon copy of the Trump policies before that, and to a certain extent Obama policies before that, how are they impacting Cubans in particular? I believe, was it Cuba on the list? It was Cuba, Venezuela, Haiti, that there are X amount of thousands of migrants who are going to be legally allowed to come in, but they have to return to their home country and do some sort of bureaucracy. How do these policies how are they detrimental specifically to Cuban migrants?
So I know in January 2023, the Department of Homeland Security did have new protocols released for immigration for those particular, like for Haitians, Nicaraguans, Cubans, and Venezuelans. And essentially, you have to have supporters of the United States that are able to provide financial support to you. And then you have to undergo robust security vetting. And there was also language in that new policy that was talking about exercising a favorable exercise of discretion. So the U.S. made it seem like this would be an easy process, but thousands of people have applied and not really have been able to immigrate and get into those particular systems. But I think the more important thing to be considering is that it's just another tactic to help bring about regime change in Cuba, because it's showing that the language says that, people want to leave their country, which is not the case. They're being strangled and being forced to leave because of U.S. Imperialism and the U.S. structure of really lying to people and pushing forward propaganda that makes it seem like this is an easy process when it's not. So it's just another tool for the U.S. to be able to say that they're really in support of these people when really they're not, especially not their governments. So I actually talked to an artist yesterday that was talking about the complexities of this process and how they've been applying for like the last 5 years and had not been able to get through those systems, despite what the U.S. was saying about the thousands of people that they would allow in.
Talk about the arrest in Bob Menendez's office and, Biden's Cuban policy. What's going on with that?
And quickly, who is Menendez for those of us who are not clear, please?
Well, U.S. Senator from New Jersey.
Sorry. Bob Menendez is a crook. He's been investigated.
Thank you.
Most
importantly. More specifically, Kim, that was trying to get at it.
Right.
Chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, but also, yes, a crook.
Yeah, so Bob Menendez is a senator from New Jersey. He's chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Just in the past 5 years, he's been investigated multiple times for corruption and fraud and abusing his position of power for his financial benefit. Bob Menendez is also Cuban American. He was born in the U.S. To my understanding, he has never been to Cuba, never stepped foot on the islands, but he has just outstanding influence over Biden's Cuba policy because he's the chair of this committee. He has a lot of control over, getting Biden's appointments through the Senate. So therefore, Biden is scared to piss him off, basically, and has been bowing down to him on not changing anything that Trump did. Menendez is a Democrat, but he even, opposed a lot of Obama's normalization efforts. He didn't even want U.S. people to be able to travel to Cuba. And so are we going to...
Democrat?
Yep.
A Democrat would do that? No,
a Cuban American Democrat.
But our weekend of action, it wasn't just this rally on Sunday. We had several days of events where we're trying to put pressure in different ways on Biden and the Democrats, and also just to, raise awareness, politically educate people on what's going on in Cuba. So on Thursday, we decided to go to Bob Menendez's office and have a conversation with him about why his policy is killing the Cuban people, the very Cuban people he claims to support. So we got there, we talked with his staff, we read aloud messages that were actually written by Cuban entrepreneurs and small business workers, asking Menendez and Biden to lift the blockade, to take Cuba off the state sponsors of terrorism list. These are the very people that they claim to be helping in Cuba, but they're actually, the main roadblock to them being able to economically develop. And so we waited for Bob Menendez to show up. His staffers told us that he'd be coming back in the afternoon. We're reading our messages. We're educating people walking through the Senate halls. But unfortunately, his staff decided to instead call the cops on us and send 25 Capitol Police officers to arrest me, Gail Walker, who's the executive director of IFCO Pastors for Peace, and Aleja Rincon, who was another Mayday Brigadista. And we were really there, just to have a conversation with Menendez. We didn't expect to change his mind and suddenly turn him into a supporter of the Cuban Revolution, but we thought he needed to hear these messages from on the ground in Cuba. But clearly, in this so-called democracy, this land of the free, they weren't even open to having a conversation with people that they don't agree with. And so instead, they called the cops on us. And now we're being charged with unlawful entry. We have a court date on July 12th, and we're hoping to get the charges dropped. But I think this really illustrates how everything the U.S. says about Cuba, about it being a dictatorship, about there being no democracy, about it being a police state, that's actually way more accurate to say about the U.S. When clearly just trying to initiate a conversation led to us being violently arrested and
if I did the math right, that's seven officers per each of you was required for that threat you posed. Please do keep us informed of the charges, the case, and anything we can do around here to support or help out. Please let us know.
We have a video clip if you'd like us to play it.
Video. Are you pulling it up?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, got you.
You just mentioned unlawful entry. I mean, what does that mean? Were you breaking into the Capitol? Seemed like you were already there.
Charges.
No, we were invited into the office by Menendez's staff when we first got there. So apparently, that statute has two aspects: one, unlawfully entering, and two, unlawfully staying when you've been asked to leave. So what we violated was the second part, because they did ask us to leave, and we said, no, we're going to wait till Menendez gets here because we want to deliver these messages directly to him. We want to tell him how his policy is killing the Cuban people.
I can't believe you guys, we brought you ruffians on the platform. Let us share this video real quick, see what's going on here.
Apparently, because we wanted to have a conversation with Senator Menendez, they said, and who we were told was coming back to the office, we've been told that we need to leave. We've been told that we're being arrested. And we wanted to talk to him about his policy towards Cuba, his policy of keeping Cuba unjustly on the state sponsors of terrorism. And so we're here to protest that. Can't get on this. So that's why we're here. And what's happening is that we're being arrested for sitting in Robert Menendez's office. We've asked to have a meeting with him. We were told by one of his staffers that he would return. We were told that we could wait. And we've now been told by the chief of staff that we're not allowed to leave, and they are now arresting us. So we're standing in defense of our Cuban family because we believe it's unjust.
Peace.
Hold on. So I think at BPM we need to do a better job of vetting our guests. I can't.
Yeah,
I mean, look at who we're bringing on here. So first of all, you're gonna create this hostility, and then you're gonna put it out on China's #1 propaganda tool, TikTok, that's bringing down the United States of America. What are we doing around here?
Guy, I told y'all about him, man. Hey, but.
We just got to expose the contradictions, because that's the constant U.S. propaganda that Cuba is a repressive state, but we're the ones that are getting repressed every day under this environment. It's just sickening. It really is. And so we have to continue to uplift that. So when y'all asked earlier, what can we do? There's so many different campaigns and strategies that are active right now that will support this revolutionary process. And I really want Comrade Netfa to speak specifically about that zone of peace as an integration part of that.
Oh, I thought you was getting ready to. Okay, that's okay. But yeah, we would be remiss though in this instance if we didn't mention the zone of peace. It's a campaign of the Black Alliance for Peace, and it's looking at the multifaceted ways of imperialism shows itself in the Western Hemisphere, and specifically applies to Cuba because among the demands is for Cuba for the Guantanamo Bay, that military base, to be moved from Cuba, as well as sanctions in general, which we know Cuba is heavily sanctioned. And just a little bit about the zone of peace as quickly as possible. The zone of peace is a call that came out of the Caribbean, Latin American Caribbean states, CELAC, which is another alternative formation to like the OAS. And in 2014, the states of CELAC came together in Havana, Cuba, and called for the Americas and the Western Hemisphere to be recognized as a zone of peace, or they said Latin America, but a zone of Latin America and the Caribbean is a zone of peace, and we've expanded that. And then in that call, they actually define what peace means in a much more anti-imperialist way and not some kind of liberal way. So what Black Alliance for Peace, BAP, has come to do is to build the popular movement for that call. So in other words, CELAC is a consortium of states, governments. We're coming to say, well, to recognize zone of peace defined in an anti-imperialist way, understanding that we have to get rid of all forms of imperialism and intervention and poverty and austerity and neoliberalism, recognizing we can only realize peace that way. We've come to say, well, we can also only recognize it with the popular movement, not just dependent on the states, but the people organized in the various countries that we're talking about. And so that is and then we sort of also, our Americas is a definition that comes out of the radical movement. Our America, that comes out of the radical movement. We make it plural on many fronts, meaning that include even the Western Hemisphere all the way up and down, and also to take that chauvinistic way of America, like United States of America was the whole continent. And it also includes the fact that those of us inside the United States are equally oppressed, just like, some of us are colonized folks and working class folks, and the same enemies that the people outside the United States have, that are their imperialism, are our enemies too. And we got to understand that. I think it's very important that we make a delineation between the interest in those people in that class and our interest, So that's.
Oh, right on. Definitely appreciate that. And
no, that's real solid.
Want to make sure we support this effort as well. Right on. Right on. Yeah, anyway, oh, that was it. Wait, what happened? Did I stop sharing? Anyway, whatever. Anyway, my bad.
Difficulties.
Yeah. Just got myself confused. No, I appreciate that. Before we do wrap up, is there anything else that we needed to be alerted to, or anything we missed in terms of the basics of what you all wanted to convey this morning?
You can keep up with our campaign, our Off the List campaign on nnlc.org/off the list. And I want everybody to really pay attention to legislation that's moving through Congress right now, HR 314, which would prevent the removal of Cuba as a state sponsor of terror, take the power away from the president to uplift that designation. And there's also some related legislation of things that are happening in Haiti that would increase sanctions for our comrades there as well. So just keep an eye out, continue to just proliferate the campaign, and you can easily integrate yourself into the campaign by continuing to have these conversations and expose these contradictions. So much love to y'all, and thank you for having us today.
Thank you all, man.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Make sure you share on Twitter when you when you any important updates and whatnot. I know Netfa usually emails us, but definitely share it on Twitter so that, we can
tag. Can I just do a shout out to Gail Walker that we saw in the video? Gail Walker is the director of Pastors for Peace now, great comrade, and then to make an appeal to our people, to like Kaula and all them who are, they come down with these charges, and anybody, we try to, we have to be supportive, much more supportive of those prosecuted or persecuted, whatever you can call it, repression by the stuff. We got to surround people. We got to protect our folks. They'll take something small and try to make it big and to use that to pull people out the movement. So, but we have to do that for the political prisoners too. So we just got to build that part of our movements, make it stronger.
No doubt. Part of recognition of the struggle around political prisoners is their attempt to create new ones. So we got you on that as much as possible. So thank you all very much for joining us. Appreciate you. And thanks again, Netfa, for reaching out. And anytime, just let us know how we can help. Appreciate you.
Be safe.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.
Yeah. What's good, everybody? Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show. As we take a quick break and get back into some more of the Remix Morning Show with the crew, we're going to talk about one more artist spotlight before we get off the scene. Who are we going to talk about? Let's take you back in time. We created a whole lot of different music. One guy that helped us create some of this dope music in different genres was no other than Big Al Downing. That's right. We're talking about somebody that came out and had over 5 decades of music. He's a musician, entertainer. He had a single back in, you're talking about 1979. He was nominated as the best new artist by the Academy of Country Music. He appeared on Hee Haw. That was an old school show. Nashville Now and Dick Clark's American Bandstand. So you know how back in the day that go. He was born in Oklahoma, and he began doing piano and vocals for Bobby Poe and the Polecats. And he did his own single after that in 1960, and it did his thing, made it to the top 40 on the U.S. Billboard chart. And then he did a song with Little Esther Phillips that really put him out there and got him signed with Warner Brothers. Now, when we talk about this brother right here, we're talking about somebody, like I said, who's built a 5-decade career around his powerful singing voice, where he had notable styles of, when you look at it, he dealt with rock, blues, roots, gospel, country, and he performed rhythm and blues, and he even had some disco music that came out while he was living in Washington, D.C. He reclaimed his musical roots by turning to country music, though, especially being from Oklahoma. And after that, he put out about 11 albums. So he did his thing for a long time. If you don't know about this brother, he's hit every genre. He put a lot of people on the map too when it came to his whole style. with Bobby Blue Bland, Tom Jones. They all was Fats Domino. It was all like, yo, this is the guy. So in case you didn't know, that is Al Downing. Now let's get back to the Remix Morning Crew. Yeah.
A part of Mr. Jones would die, and from his eyes the tears began to run. And he began to pray that he'd live to see the day.
Yeah.
Is it bad that I don't know who the hell that is?
Most of y'all don't know who it is.
I don't.
You didn't know either, Kim?
No. Where is he from again, Ear Doctor?
Oklahoma.
Really?
Yeah.
Did he say where in Oklahoma? I'm just curious. You know, I got some Oklahoma.
Lenape, Oklahoma. What's that? Lenapah.
Don't know.
Yeah.
But that's cool. But oh my gosh. Listen to who he was running with. It was him, Bobby Blue Bland, Tom Jones. Like, what a crew.
I mean, if you stretch, in his last album he put out, I believe, was in 2003. So I mean, when you go over that many decades of music, from country blues to disco, and you're able to stay relevant that whole time, what? I mean, a lot of us don't know because we don't listen to country music, but
yeah. Only black folks I know in country music is Charlie Pride.
Well, you don't know, but you would know him if you've seen him. Cowboy Troy.
Who's Cowboy Troy?
some Negro. I don't know. Cowboy Troy. I don't know how else to describe him. Anyway, but yeah.
Cowboy.
Is he still with us, Ear Doctor, or is he an ancestor?
He passed. He had I believe he had a heart attack or something like that.
I just guessed that. I guessed he must have been. You know.
Yeah, when you big Al Downing, you know. Happens.
Well, no, yeah. Listen, there is not a genre of music birthed from this rotten settler colony that we didn't do. Like, that was us.
We did everything.
Country western, that's us. I was watching Walk the Line, was on HBO, the Johnny Cash story, and listening to Johnny Cash and June Carter sing songs. I'm like, they just trying to imitate blues singers. I'm like, this is some mediocre blues singing, really, at its core. So yeah. If not for people like Big Al Dowling, who would the mega successful whites be?
Well, that's always true.
From? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the stories about like the Rolling Stones and all the big rock and roll bands was that they just took blues for the most part, refashioned it in a way, and white folks loved it, and they became millionaires, hundreds of times over millionaires. And a lot of those blues artists died, you know, nobody knowing their name, nobody giving them no money, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so when we say like people bite us, I mean, if we created every music, then you had to get it from somewhere. We created everything.
What didn't we create? I mean, seriously, like to point to the genre. Everything is us. From metal, from punk. Like, look at us. Like, we did it all. Pop, disco, dance, trance, house, R&B.
Music.
Would you look at it because some people were looking at survival, and then some people actually had arts and culture and stuff? Like, we always made space for arts and culture, where other races was like, all right, we surviving, get all that. Well, especially the Europeans, they definitely didn't have too much arts and culture. They just stole ours and
busy taking over
put it in museums.
They're busy taking over the world.
Yeah. We had time.
And the drum, isn't Europe pretty much the only place on earth where the drum was not indigenous to, right? Everybody else was beating the drum. They would beat the drum on Africa. They would beat the drum on North America. They was beating the drum in Australia. You know, the indigenous, the Aboriginals, of course. Wasn't no drums in Europe. I think that's why they have a hard time catching the beat sometimes, because it's not in them.
There it is. So
I do remember.
Silberg, I know David Silberg. No, he clap on the 1 and the 3. Silberg ain't out here.
1 and 3. Jay-Z was just performing out in Paris, and the crowd was clapping. He was like, "Nah, y'all just need to stop. Y'all ain't even on beat." He's like, "Just stop. Let me rap."
It's funny you said that. We just went to a Dave Matthews show out here at Merriweather the other day, and it was dope. And his still heavily black influenced band, was causing some of the white folks in the crowd a little confusion with the rhythm. You can see some folks are struggling, but it was interesting. I do want to shout out, I want to shout out the black fans of Dave Matthews who were out there. One sister in particular who sat right in front of us was by herself, dolo, and she was having the best time among anybody there. She knew every song, every word, every groove. Yeah. It was, and they killed it. They killed it. I got to say, they killed it. And Merriweather, let me say one thing. This is where the socialism kicked in. Dave Matthews stopped in the middle of the show to point out how Merriweather Post Pavilion is unlike many of the amphitheaters he plays because of the planning that went into it. I don't know to what extent he understands how Columbia is notorious in some circles or praised in others for being one of the nation's most prominent planned cities. And to all the flaws around here, one of the things that does happen is a lot of time and energy and investment goes into planning the layout and the design, the development. And Merriweather, as I don't even go that much, we literally can walk. We walk to the show. And we hear bands playing there. We can hear it from our house when they do shows, but we usually either between not able to afford it and them not having a lot of bands that we want to see, we don't go. But when we went, the joint is phenomenal. The place is phenomenal. And
what was Dave Matthews' specific praise about Merriweather?
Because he was saying the layout, he was saying the amphitheater is beautiful and the design of it and the way it was shaped. I mean, they renovated it recently. Since I've been there, they've even upgraded even more.
They put that upper level up there, which is upper level,
and the way it blends with the open space. So you get all this natural light coming in, but if you pay the extra money, you get into the covering and you get all this. I mean, it's like it's beautiful. And everything was laid out. Even the bathrooms for a public place is almost usable without feeling, it was
putting the
almost
napkins
for a public
down.
place. I mean, it was but anyway, so I just thought so I was like, yeah, the more you plan, the more you nationalize and organize, the more you can do with the resources you have.
Brought it back full circle.
Just to come back, I did want to add just one thing to what you all were saying. I had a white undergrad history professor who taught one of our European history classes, and he was very clear. He said, "We," meaning white folks, he said, "We are a borrowing culture." He was like, Europe invented nothing. He even said the sound. "Ah," I think, like instead of "a," but you say "ah." That sound. He was like. Something like either that's the only thing Europeans have contributed.
Wow.
It was like something like that. He was very clear. Like we've stolen everything.
Right. I'm glad you said that. You corrected saying the borrowed culture. I mean, because
that was his word initially, and then we did have a few discussions, and he was trying to be nice. I think to his white students, I was in there like, nah, you stole that shit. G. But but it was anyway. I just thought it was interesting, given what you all were just talking about.
So before you go, I mean, the Dave Matthews thing, I know not of. I've heard of Dave Matthews. Didn't he have a black lead singer one time? What's his name?
Not lead singer. He was I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jared.
No, go ahead, Kim. Go ahead.
No, I mean, because I kind of don't know. Because I remember was he one of their lead guitarists or was he their drummer? He passed away, right?
The saxophone player.
Yep.
Who had an ATV accident a couple of years ago that led to some blood clot issue in his leg, and that took him out. But the band initially, Carter Beauford is the drummer, brother, who's I think. Outside of some of these jazz cats, he's the best. I mean, I'm a Dave Matthews Band fan because of him. Before I even get to what I appreciate about the rest, I mean, his drumming is out of this world good. And I'm as a former wannabe drummer from Mama's Biscuits, greatest funk band in Western Maryland, 97, 99. So I just wanted to see him. But then there was a brother who played violin. In the original format of the band, who apparently had to step back on some sexual assault, misconduct, something went wrong, and he was removed. But they replaced him with this brother, and I put it on the Instagram if anybody wants to check it out. I think it's Bobby Strong is his name. This brother plays keys and sings. he changed the sound of the band. I think there's a whole soulfulness. They did a whole thing that almost sounded like Afrobeat. Like he did a rendition of Sly's "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself." I mean, they killed it. And then they got a brother Rashawn who plays trumpet. They got a little horn section. They got another brother who plays. So there's always been this black. And then of course Dave is from South Africa, so he's used to being the white man around Africans. And
the sax player name was Leroy Moore.
Leroy Moore, thank you very much. They call him the Grugruk's King, and even do a tribute song to him, which they performed the other night. And they go into jazz and fusion. I mean, they're like they're also they musicians love them and appreciate them because they're like a jam band too. Like they don't just play a song; they do a whole, and they're tight as a band. I mean, it's tight. It's tight. So if you appreciate live music and understand bands and all that, even if you don't like them per se, you would have to appreciate tight, So anyway, it was dope. It was dope. I gotta say it was dope.
We almost in the month of July, so we're gonna have to get a mix at 350 viewers now. Just putting that out there. 350 viewers.
How you jump up 50 just like that?
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Tell them.
We hit 325.
We hit 350 today.
Yeah, we've
been hitting 350.
It was just 300.
Yeah, that was last month.
Yeah, we
okay. Make it 325. What's up with the huge jump?
Whoa! It's not that huge. Come on. Pause.
That's huge.
Nah.
Let's start with 325.
All right, 350.
And work our way up. Yeah.
Okay.
Kamal said, let's lower our expectations here. let's be reasonable here.
We gotta go up.
Remember that SNL sketch, Lowered Expectations.
But yeah, so I and genocide is what the Europeans brought to culture. Okay. All right.
Thank you for bringing it back.
I'll catch y'all in the next break.
Hey, speaking of which, just real quick before we get out of here, thank you, Ear Doctor. I want to shout out. I've been having this. I gotta say, this virtual reality has helped me return some of my, community activist organization visits. So I've been popping up in people's stuff lately, in their presentations and their community work. And one of them that I got to attend last night virtually was hosted by BLMDC and April Goggins. And I just wanted to show this little screenshot I took just to have one example of what they were doing and talking about policing in DC and encouraging people how to respond and record police abuses. So one of the points that they made was that DC is the most heavily policed city in the United States. And April did a great job of breaking this down. So shout out to her and to PACA, BLMDC, and honestly, I can't remember who else was in attendance organizationally, but it was a great presentation. And I encourage people to tap in with what they're doing and whatever's going on in their local community around this similar issue. And one of the things that came up was a question about what can or are communities doing to record and tabulate police abuse that doesn't get reported and get recorded officially? Because I forgot the number, but there was a tremendous, it's like half, if not more, of what goes on doesn't even get reported. And the police, of course, don't want to hear about it, but are there ways that communities can keep tabs of, for themselves, like who in the police force is doing what are the police doing to people in the community, and maybe have like a grassroots effort around projecting that reality beyond the immediate people suffering it. So anyway, just shout out to April and her crew and everybody else that was there. It was a very dope and informative presentation, and a reminder of really what DC is here to represent as the capital of empire and policing, apparently.
And I think that's true. Obviously, I think that's true all over the place. It's like the numbers that we quote or we cite or we even talk about are literally like only a fourth of the type of stops and frisks and interactions that the community has with police, because most folks don't report it because it's just a day in the life. Like you get stopped and they empty out your pockets. You just put your things back in your pockets and I'm 5 minutes late. I just got to get up and keep on going. So I'm 1,000% sure that all those numbers are really just the sort of the tip of the iceberg when we talk about like harassment and illegal stops And even if and searches and all that kind of stuff. It's just like the day in the life. And some, cats like report 2 or 3 times a day, depending on where you at or where you standing or what you're doing, So it's just the way it is for folks. And people just feel like they can't do anything about it, or it's just like a regular, it's almost like you got your regular routine. Like you get your coffee in the morning, you stop, back in the day, I guess you get some newspaper or whatever, and you're on your way. For some folks, it's like you go outside, you talk to your folks, you walk away someplace, cop pulls you over, stops you, turns out your pockets, and they get back and go in their car, and you get back in and go about your business, kind of thing. It's just like that routine in some places.
Yeah. To your point absolutely. About the training that DMV Black Lives did in teaching people to identify problematic, abusive officers in the community. I have to really give the organizing community in DC all the credit for the first time a Metropolitan Police officer was convicted of murder while on duty. That happened earlier this year. Never had happened in the history of DC policing ever. And I think the reason that it happened was because the community was already well aware of the officer who pursued, I believe, chat, help me if I get the name wrong. Is it Karan Hilton Brown? Who pursued this young man who was riding a scooter, pursued him while he was on a scooter riding along the sidewalk, and he got into a car accident and was injured, but as a result of police actions. And charges were brought, conviction was actually obtained, but that would have not happened were it not for the sustained efforts of not only Karan's family, but activists like April and organizations that really got behind that. But they was naming him. What was his name? Oh, God damn, I apologize. Was it Bigums? I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the officer's name, but because they had been monitoring his interactions, the way that he engaged with people in the community, his reputation was already well known, and they had a list long on him of egregious infractions that he had done to harm members of the community in advance of what happened to Karan. So that is a very valuable tool, because knowing who the worst of the worst actors are can be beneficial, I think, just for community overall knowledge and then how to move accordingly.
So, Kim, I just pulled the story, and then, of course, the ad came up. I pulled the story up. Terrence Sutton was found guilty of second-degree murder, conspiracy to obstruct, and obstruction of justice in the death of Karan Hilton Brown. Suspended Lieutenant Andrew Zabowski, 54, was found guilty of conspiracy to obstruct and obstruction of justice, the release said. So, yeah.
One site too that folks, before I forget, that you can stay tuned to is mappingpoliceviolence.org.
Right on.
They had the brother what's his name, Samuel Sinyegwe, on RSTV, and they've been monitoring police terrorism situations. I know he has Mapping Police Violence and Police Scorecard. So those are some sites that you can kind of keep up with to know what's going on. And of course, we're never going to get all the official counts, because police, especially in places like Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana and Georgia and anywhere USA, they don't always report the murders by police. And oftentimes they'll flip it and they'll make it look like it was gang related or it was drug related and all this other stuff. And later on, you're finding out that, it wasn't what was reported. But we can rest assured that anywhere between 12 and 1,500 people are being murdered by police here in the United States every year.
And to be clear, collecting and disseminating this information publicly is also not without risk. An independent media outlet in Los Angeles called Knock LA, one of their editors named Ben Camacho, along with a community organization called Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, were actually sued recently by the city of Los Angeles for publishing and disseminating photos of so-called undercover officers. But the gag is the journalist and the community organization obtained those photos from who? Los Angeles themselves. The city actually published this information and then are now suing a journalist and a community organizing group for not taking down the information that the city already provided and for not deleting the photos. And even Mayor Karen Bass, I did a story about this on my channel. Mayor Karen Bass got into it and she was like, how could y'all publish the pictures of undercover officers? You putting these officers in danger? Well, if these officers are out here causing harm in the community, no city, entity, state, whatever, has a right to a secret police force. Like this is all of the public interest. So anyway, for the people that are doing this work, acknowledge them, help them, support them, because again, it's not without risk.
But what people do have a right for and a right to is the mix that they earn today by hitting the new number.
Okay. July. We start in July.
350.
Oh, starting July. Okay.
That's right, bro.
325.
Let me give the people what they want, man.
Just a touch of love.
Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow.
So see you tonight, 2 p.m. today.
All right, 2 p.m.
Cornell West.
Yeah.
Just a touch, love.
Let's go, y'all.
Make me shine just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a touch of love.
Send my mind just a little bit. Just a little bit.
You got to
keep me high, baby. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Come on, y'all.
with just a touch of love.
I'm feeling high. My money's gone. I'm all alone. To my shoes.
Come on.
The world keeps turning. Oh, what a day. The day. These are lessons, man. Every lesson learned. If your knowledge were your weapon, it would be well earned. We were made in his image, then call us by our name. Those intellects do not believe in God, but they fear us just as a
Come on, jump up, freak a hustle, do what you want, but move every muscle. Ain't no time for playing around. Only one thing to do when you hear this sound.
Yeah.
Act yourself with someone else and make sure yourself ain't by yourself.
Yeah.
Dying to get on the dance floor, girl. What you waiting for? Yeah. Come on over and swing with me. Take your mind out your misery. Tomorrow's gonna be another day. Tonight, I'm gonna take it light. Grab the world and put it on hold. Relax my body and rest my soul. Feel the vibe surrounding me.
That's right.
Feel the bass come down on me. Yeah.
Let me bring that bass down. Come on.
I get in shape and do my physical fitness. Your head's and numb so your brains are missed this. Pick 'em up, beat 'em up, pick 'em up, beat 'em up, pick 'em up. Picklehead, pick 'em up, picky. I roll with clouds and I come real sticky. Gripping the mic, I plug it up in your ears, crazy and brood. I'm coming out like beers, like Rango. Miller Courts and Buzz. I'ma eat 'em with popcorn and treat 'em like such, you duds. Coming out the wick, whack, wiki, pickable whack, black, jack. That's a fact, writing exact behind your back. The funk rhyme and master, blaster. Kicking up in a brainstorm, rap storm, rap form, rap time, rap rhyme, rap class. I'm here to fail and pass to continue. Furthermore.
Thank you for being, thank you for being a friend.
Line that up, man.
Travel down the road, back again.
Let's go.
Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant.
Little blend.
And if you threw a party,
What happened?
you invited everyone you knew.
Woo.
You would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend.
And we out of here, y'all. No other than the Remix Morning Show. Back tomorrow, 8 a.m. And we out. Peace.